beer, it's good for you.
Hello and welcome to part 5 of the How to Homebrew Beer series. In this episode I'll be covering everything you need to know about base malts from A to Z, so let's get started. Do not worry if you do not currently understand what a base malt is, this is very easy to explain and understand. Base malts are types of malted barley that are used as the main fermentable source within all grain beer brews. Different base malts are chosen for their different characteristics by recipe writers and are sometimes used side by side within a single grain bill to create a mixed effect. Within the USA, some base malts are available in both 6-row and 2-row barley, which are then subject to a malting process. The number reference applies the amount of grains per head as shown on screen. You will find that 2-row barley is larger in size and also more consistent in size too, making it much easier to mill. There is also a difference in taste. 2-row has a much more mellow grain flavour that tastes fuller and maltier, whereas 6-row is much more grainy. 2-row is also having a higher starch content, meaning that the grain's yield is increased for brewing. Outside of the US, 6-row is not used for brewing at all. Its main use is as feed for livestock. From this point onwards I will just talk about 2-row barley when drawing reference. When it comes to brewing malts in general, there are various important numbers for measurement. The first I will cover is known as diastatic power, or DP for short, as shown on the chart on screen that compares various different base malts. This is a measurement that determines the amount of enzymes that are available to convert starches from our malt into sugar. The higher the DP the better, and this can be utilised by other grains in our mash that have a low DP too. Base malts in general have a high DP as you can see via the on-screen chart, but quite clearly not all are equal, and as some of these number ranges suggest, there is some variation. When judging a grain bill and its DP total, you are looking for a minimum of 30, but an amount that is at least double this is much more desirable. Here is an example of a grain bill from within Brewfather. You can see the DP total here of 66, which is going to offer no issues at all. In this case, the pale ale base malt here is carrying the flaked wheat and maize, which both have 0 DP. Let's get back to more information about base malts. You will notice within my list here that I have wheat malt. There are those that would argue both ways about if this is a base malt or not. Certainly it is not barley, and it is very unusual to see it as the only type of base malt that has higher levels of DP within a grain bill, but I will include it here because it can be used as a high percentage of a grain bill. The next of our important numbers is SG, and this refers to the potential starting gravity of a malt, showing us its conversion potential. Naturally this, like our DP, will vary from malthouse to malthouse, and these numbers are here simply as good examples. You will note that with base malts they are all pretty even in this regard. Now there are various other ways of reporting this kind of data, but for the purpose of this guide I'm not going to go any deeper and would suggest that you check online on how such measurements are expressed in your own country. It is simply important to know that different malts can be judged in this way. Another area of data refers to the colour that each grain will impart. On screen we have a chart of colour and how it applies to a variety of typical colours by beer style. Firstly, on the right we have EBC, which stands for European Brewery Convention, and we also have SRM on the left, which stands for Standard Reference Method. In both cases, the higher the number, the darker the colour. SRM was adopted by the American Society of Brewing Chemists back in 1951 when it replaced the older scale known as Lovibond, which for fun is still actually used. As you would expect, EBC is European. You will find free colour converters online like the one shown here from Brewer's Friend that will convert all 3 standards for you. I have to say though, it would be best if something worldwide could be agreed on. Being a European, my vote goes to EBC of course, and there is the problem, and the reason why there are always more than one standard for everything. You will note that Brewer's Friend has guessed what EBC stands for and got it wrong here, but at least the conversion is accurate and, most importantly, free. Let's now go in deeper information-wise on popular base malts. Pale ale malt is believed to date back to the 1600s in England, and at that time was kilned with coke rather than wood. At this point the British had developed new kilning techniques that led the way forward to lower coloured malt. The term pale ale, though, did not appear until the early 1700s, and at that point this was a term used for malt that was kilned by coke. At that time the malt was producing an amber colour, but compared to the current beer market, which was made up of porters and stouts, it was certainly pale in comparison. Hence its name, which has certainly stood the test of time. These days, pale ale malt can be obtained that offers a variety of different colours and is available in different forms. You will find that pale ale malt, when named as such, can vary quite a lot from maltster to maltster. Weyermann of Germany, for example, produce a pale ale malt that seeks English characteristics that offer malty flavours of bread, dry fruits and honey. Whereas Great Western, a maltster from the US, has a high colour pale ale malt that is sweet malty with some nutty and biscuit qualities. However, in general, you can expect a pale ale malt to have a lower colour and less flavour compared to more specialist versions. Maris Otter is one such special version of pale ale malt and originates back from England in 1966. It is available from a number of British maltsters. It is as such a heritage barley which is grown in the winter. Maris Otter offers a higher quality and has its own unique flavour that is usually rich and slightly nutty. Compared to basic pale ale malt, it also offers a slightly darker colour too. There is also the Scottish-grown Golden Promise, which also has a higher level of quality. This was introduced into the markets in the 1960s and is used by both beer brewers and distillers alike. Unlike Maris Otter, Golden Promise is a spring barley variety. Golden Promise is known to be more mellow when compared to Maris Otter flavour-wise, and it offers greater sweetness and a much cleaner flavour too. Like Maris Otter, it also imparts a darker colour than the standard pale ale malt, but this is usually not quite as dark as you will get from Maris Otter. Chevalier Heritage Malt, however, has been available for a much longer period and dates back to the 1800s. It was incredibly popular in England as a brewer's quality malt during the 1820s to 1920s and has been cultivated all over the world. Like Maris Otter, it has a strong maltiness, though it has to be said that Chevalier certainly offers this in a much more pronounced and deep way. This malt also brings its own marmalade character with a long aftertaste and a subtle fresh bread quality. These days it is also used as a distiller's malt for whiskey, which is a fine pairing for its flavour characteristics. The history of Pilsner malt is actually linked to the British evolution of kilning techniques to produce a lighter coloured malt and thus end beer. A Czech brewer utilised, or some say stole, a British kiln and developed an even lighter form of malt from barley than pale ale that became known as Pilsner malt. No matter how scandalous you see this history, I guess we can all agree that it led to some really great things. Pilsner malt, due to its lighter colour, is also lighter in flavour and leads to a crispness far greater than can be found with a pale ale malt. Due to its more subtle flavours, it is the go-to choice for lagers or beer where a less malty flavour is desired, as Pilsner malt also finds its way into ales too, often being blended with pale ale malt as part of a base malt mix. Like with pale ale malt, there are different varieties available. Here is an example of a basic Weyermann Pilsner malt. You will note that it is malty sweet and has some light honey notes too. Weyermann also offer a floor malted version which is tagged as a Bohemian variety. The malting process on this one is done in the old traditional way and it offers a more intense aroma and flavour of the malt with honey and biscuit. Further to this range there is also an extra pale version which offers a lower base colour with a lower flavour profile too. This type of Pilsner malt is still suitable for a range of ales and lagers, but the list is certainly reduced. Next we have Vienna malt. This malt is roasted further than its lighter base malt friends already mentioned and due to this has a lower level of diastatic power. So when using Vienna, it is generally to be used as part of a base malt rather than the whole base malt to aid in conversion. There are always exceptions though, like the Vienna lager, though quite frankly often these days this is backed up with another base malt like Pilsner to a small degree at the very least to aid in conversion. Vienna tends to have a soft, grainy and malty flavour with background flavours and aromas of toffee and biscuit that come across as quite sweet. Let's now move on to one of my favourites, which is Munich malt. Like Vienna, Munich malt was also roasted to form a darker colour, so as such it has a lower level of diastatic power than other base malts. This comparison also includes Vienna malt due to its usually darker colour, but this is not always the case. In terms of flavour, Munich has a more intense level of sweet malty flavour and is not grainy as such. It is common to see maltsters offer Munich in at least two varieties, the difference being the colour and the flavour. For example, Weyermann offer Type 1 and Type 2, with Type 2 being darker and more flavourful. Some maltsters like Viking offer even lower colour versions too, so check what's available around you. Wheat malt is our first non-barley based malt. Unlike the other base malts mentioned, this is mostly grown for the cereal market and as such there are no breeding programs that are specific for brewing. Unfortunately, this makes wheat as a brewer's malt more unreliable in terms of predicting gravity compared to other base malts already mentioned. Wheat malt has been traditionally used at between 50 to 70% of a beer's main base malt, but is also used in smaller amounts in other beer styles, including IPAs, to add more mouthfeel and other effects like foam retention, depending on the percentage used. At 5% of your grist, for example, wheat malt will add foam stability without adding haze or flavour. Wheat malt is sold by various maltsters covering a range of colour and flavour profiles. For more information about the various different types of wheat used in brewing, check out the video shown on screen, which is already featured on my channel. Then lastly, let's look at the not so well known mild malt. Mild malt is very British and is used with mild stouts and porters when an older traditional result is wanted. Compared to pale ale, this malt has increased sweetness, body and malty flavours. It can be used as 100% of your grist like pale ales or Pilsner malts, but this is not usually recommended from a flavour perspective. A blast for the past for sure, but well worth trying if its profile interests you. I do hope that you found this video useful, informative and interesting. If so, why not consider liking and subscribing? For further support, you can join the channel's Facebook group, and if you would like to support the channel, then check out the channel's merchandise store, as all profits go back into the channel. Until next time, happy brewing!